My name is Ann Little, and I've been sewing since I was about 5 years old. And we're going to talk about basic sewing skills. And this is a mud workshop. And what is it, December 13th or something like that. How many people have done any sewing at all? A little bit?
A couple buttons.
Oh, okay, good. That's the old standard needle and thread approach. I've got a few packets here, and what's in here is a pattern for a grocery bag and directions on how to do that. And there's a resource guide that has a list of people to talk to in companies, stores and stuff in Missoula, and is kind of goofy. This one over here is right under the mud sewing class thing, so don't ignore it because they're good people to talk to as bobbins and bolts. If you know of a supplier that isn't on this list, it's because I wouldn't recommend them. There are other suppliers around town, other sewing machine stores and people like that, and I wouldn't recommend them. But I can't say who they are because then we're in trouble. So, let's see. There are some definitions on the back of the resource sheet that'll help you kind of understand some of the terms you use when you're sewing. And the pattern you have is a copy of this pattern right here, like that. And if you open yours up, it'll have these lines on it. And we'll talk about those later. Now this is a pattern I made. And if you go to the store, what you're going to find is a pattern that looks like this. Now I was shocked at the price of patterns these days. So I'm used to paying $5, $6, $3 for a pattern. And sometimes you can go to garage sales and there'll just be a whole box full of old patterns and grab them, because these now are like $14, $15 if you pay regular full price for them. Keep your eyes open at like Joann Fabrics and stuff, because lots of times they have them on sale. These patterns are on very, very super light tissue paper, and that's because they want you to destroy it so you buy another pattern. They don't last very long, but if you find a pattern you really like, dig up some newsprint and copy it onto that so you can use it again and again and again. You know, like if you find a shirt pattern or something, that's a good way to do it. This is actually a pattern that after you take this and learn how to use the machine a little bit, you probably can make yourself a pair of those flannel pants overnight. They're really, really easy. They're like 4 pieces, front and back, sew up the seams, put some elastic around it, and hem it to wherever your legs are long and you're done. So it's very brainless. A lot of the instructions in these commercial patterns are very confusing. One of the tricks that I use when I'm using a pattern like this is I look at the pictures in the directions and not at what they tell you to do. Make your thing look like the picture, because sometimes the directions don't match. So, and they can be really confusing. Okay, so we've got those pieces, and you've got a sheet like that that has the directions and the definitions, so you're good to go. I'll pass this around. This shows you a little flip thingy I did like that, and you can see how a bobbin works in a sewing machine. And you go, how do sewing machines work? Well, if this is a good example right there. The needle goes down and the tip of the needle has a thread going through a hole. And it goes down and the thread loops around a round disc underneath that also has thread in it, and it comes back up and then it goes back down and it loops again, and it just loops again. And If you want to read about how a sewing machine works, there's a really nice website called How Stuff Works. Just go online, How Stuff Works, sewing machine. I've got a whole bunch of pencils. You can take lots of notes. I've got extra scissors and all kinds of stuff. But this kind of talks about what I'm saying right here is, it looks like this. The needle goes down through the fabric here, and it goes down and it loops around the bobbin here, and it comes back up, and then it goes to the next point, and it goes. So what you're ending up with is thread top and bottom all the way along the seam, all the way along where you're sewing. Whereas if you're just doing the needle and thread thing, you got a gap. You got a gap on top, then a gap on the bottom, then a gap on top, because you're just sewing like that and you're creating spaces. The sewing machine is stitching on both sides as it goes along. So you can take a look at these guys. There are different types of sewing machine. The one we're going to use just does straight stitching, but there's also machines that do chain stitches. I don't know if you've ever opened up a bag of flour and you can pull the thread and it just goes rrrr. That's a chain stitch. It's not very strong, because if anything breaks in there, if you do that on your shirt or your pants, they'll fall apart, just like, you know, the bag of flour will. I'll pass this around so you can take a look at that little guy. There's also a machine called a serger, S-E-R-G-E-R, and it makes this kind of a seam like on fleece, where it's flat and there's no fabric sticking out on the inside. If you look at like a dress shirt, on the inside there'll be extra fabric on the inside. You'll see it, you know, there'll be a stitch line and then there'll be some extra fabric. That's called a seam allowance, and that's usually somewhere between 1/4 inch and 1 inch wide. And I'm thinking, what have I got? I mean, like on your pair of pants, if you look at the seam on your pair of pants, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's just extra fabric, like a 1/2 inch extra fabric on the inside. Or on your shirt, you know, on the edge of your shirt, when you open it up here, you'll see extra material. And that's because you can't just take 2 pieces of material and kind of magically glue them together. The sewing doesn't do that. You have to have some extra in there. When we get to sewing, we'll look at that bobbin and needle thing a little bit closer, see exactly how that works. And it's good to know how it works, because lots of times when you start sewing, things get tangled up underneath there. And if you know what it's supposed to look like, then you know how to take it apart. And it's real handy to have a pair of tweezers and a little sharp, like fingernail scissors or something, so you can get in there and kind of clip those threads when they get snaggled up. Because I have been sewing forever and that still happens. And I had a company that did upholstery for over 20 years. And we used to give a prize if somebody came up with a mistake that we hadn't made before. So you're not going to win any prizes today, because I have seen unbelievable mistakes over the years, most of which I've done. You know, things where you basically have to take the entire sewing machine apart to get to the thread that you've tangled up. So if you ever hear your machine kind of go k-k-k, stop. If it's not going chunk, 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 there's something wrong. So just stop, take your stuff apart, see what's going on, clean it up. It's sort of like take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning kind of thing. You just don't try and force it through, because forcing it's just going to make it worse. And you can actually jam thread inside the gears, and you're going to have a professional look at it. So just nice and gentle. Your sewing machine works fine, usually all by itself. So, and you can also throw the timing off on the machine. And the important part of this is when the needle comes down through the fabric, the eye of the needle has to hit the hook on the bottom at exactly the right point to catch the thread to loop it around. And if the needle comes down and the point is back here and the needle starts to come up, it'll miss. Or if it's gone too far, it'll miss or it'll snag up. And then you go to the sewing machine repair place and you have them fix it. Because they'll back it out and unscrew things and realign things and put the timing back in the right place. Okay, some of the tools you need: scissors, pins, pencils, rulers. There are some tricky things that I've brought, one of which is weights. Most of the time when you put your pattern on the fabric, you want to pin the fabric to the pattern to the fabric, so when you cut around the pattern, it stays where you want it to be. Now that works okay on most fabric, but if you get really thick fabric, the pins are going to pucker the fabric and the pattern won't lie flat. So sometimes you want to use these lead weights, and these are really heavy and they're felt, and you can set them on your pattern so you aren't puckering the fabric by running a pin through. And you may never need them, but they are available. And if you go to the sewing store, it's rather intimidating to look at all this tricky stuff they've got to help you sew. Basically, scissors, pins, tape measure, ruler, pencil, that type of stuff. When I mark things on my fabric, I usually do it in chalk. If you do it in pencil, it'll never come out. If you do it in pen, it sure will never come out, and the chalk will eventually just rub out or wash out. You can get dust-free chalks, or if you're using it a lot, it's nice to get the dust-free, but it's kind of hard to find sometimes. And I sharpen my chalk so I've got a nice edge, and I just literally take the scissors and cut the chalk. Just like that, so it's got a sharp edge, and then you can draw around your pattern. The pattern that you have is going to be good enough for cutting out the material, but the pattern that I have has got little holes in it, here and here, and those are marks that you're going to want to make on your fabric to make those lines. Now you can poke holes through your patterns when you get home, so you can make those, to do that if you want to make more of these. But you've got all the same lines as this has on it, so you should be pretty good to go. So when you get your fabric cut out, we'll put this on and we'll mark those so we can draw these lines on your fabric. What we're going to do is pick fabric. You're going to need enough. There's a stack of material there on the table. You can choose what you want. You're going to need one piece that's this big. You're going to need one piece that's this big. And you're going to need two pieces that are this big. So just go through there, and there's enough fabric there so that if you both pick the same fabric, you should be able to get two pieces out of some of those, so it'll be okay. What you might want to do is pick fabrics that match, because basically we're going to be making a bag like this. And so the bottom will have a piece of fabric on it, and this one doesn't have pockets, but you've got one that's got pockets, and there's going to be a pocket that goes right here and right here on this, and then there's straps over there too, and you can pick what color straps you want. So this is almost identical to what we're going to make, and we can lay our material out here, and we can sort of show how we cut things and figure that out. One of the things that you see on here is this great big black line right down the middle. This is called the straight of grain. That's the direction you want the material, the pattern to go on your material. And when they make woven fabric, the threads cross back and forth like that. So you want to make sure your pattern lines up with those threads this way or that way. When you have a knit fabric, you've seen people knit. It's a series of loops. And this is knit. This is real stretchy. Woven fabrics are usually pretty stiff. You know, your pants don't pull very much. But the fleece stuff is a knit, so it does. So all of those fabrics there are woven fabrics. So we want to make sure that we don't kind of stick the pattern on there just cattywampus. And there's a variety of things. Pretty much anything on the table is going to work for your bag. And there's strapping, so go ahead and take a look and see what you want. And if you want to take these pieces with you, that's fine because they're a little easier to work with than your lightweight paper. Yeah, so you might want to pick a fabric that you have for the main part of the bag and then something that'll work for the pockets, which will be smaller pieces, or something that'll work for the bottom. So, like that one,
Yeah, that'd work.
that might be a nice contrast for you. We'll see if there's enough there. Some green and green stripes. Yeah, so there's enough here for two, there's enough here for two, there's enough there for two. So if we both like the same material, you can just fight over it. But yeah, that'd work. See if this chunk here will fit on there. Kind of looks like it will. Yeah, you're good to go. That'll work. You'll be able to get your bottom and both pockets out of that.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah. So just grab something and we'll start laying things out and see how it goes from there. This is kind of an interesting one. This has got this little bit of a band on it, which by the time we get done probably isn't going to show really, but it's there. It was interesting. So good. Yeah. You gonna make one?
Yeah, I think you think there's enough for the body of the bag.
For two of those.
Bag?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
Definitely.
that's what I wanna do. I wanna
Okay.
Make my pockets and my bottom with this.
Okay. Good.
Do my pockets and bottoms.
That's fine. Sure. Sure. That's great.
I think there's tons in here. You
There's
could do
tons
a
of that.
bag out of this one.
Yeah. Yes, you could. Well, yeah, you might have to run it the other direction.
Yeah, it might not actually. Well, it doesn't even.
Oh,
It
yeah.
doesn't. It's not really directional though.
No. You could do either way. So, yes, you could get a couple out of there. So we want to find a flat part of the table. And one of the things you'll find about sewing that you really, really start to value after a while are big tables. You start looking at people's working tables and starting lusting after them. Okay, so just going to lay the fabric out like this. And in this case, we probably just want to put a stripe right down the middle so it looks kind of nice.
Yep.
And this is easy because you can just line it up with the stripes. And I always get these kind of pins because Heidi's got some little ones. The one that Heidi has, they're less expensive, they're little short ones. But these are long and they're really sharp. And they go through your fabric easier. And also if you have to really push them in, you're not like killing your thumbs. And if you're doing a lot of pinning, after a while, your thumbs are gonna hurt if you don't have ones like this. So we're just gonna go right through the fabric, just like that.
On
And
the four corners? Or?
probably a little bit more than the four corners. And if you, yeah, we can move stuff. And sometimes it makes it easier if you put a straight edge on there to kind of hold everything flat. What I'm doing right here is I'm lining this up with this stripe. And you want this to be, again, on the straight grain of the fabric. So try and make these edges line up with the direction that the threads are going. On something that isn't a stripe, it's a little harder to see that. But if you look at closely, I think, and if you lined it up with the edge of the fabric, that's pretty good. So go ahead give that a shot. And these are just bits we're not going to be able to use. Yeah, you might find it's easier to turn it sideways,
Okay.
because then you don't have to worry about this side of the fabric over here, and just, there you go. And probably line this edge up. See, put a stripe, well, you put a stripe anywhere, I guess. And one of the things you want to do when you're pinning the pattern to the fabric is you want to try and keep the pattern as flat as you can. So sometimes it's like putting a straight edge on the folds or something will sort of help keep it straight. So that works. And you don't have to put lots and lots and lots of pins in. And Heidi's cheating because she's done this a million times. I've probably made this bag 75 to 100 times. And since I've been sewing really a long time, I make a lot of assumptions and use words you're not familiar with. So please, just stop me if it doesn't make any sense and say, what are you talking about? Okay, so you're doing good. That's great. Maybe like one here and here and one there, and you're probably ready to cut. This was $1.75, and these little pieces were a quarter.
So am I going to cut on this line? Or?
Nope, you're going to cut around the outside of the pattern. Yep, just go ahead.
Cut into here?
Yes, you do.
All right.
Yep, let's grab another pin and just hold this corner, this little bit down a little bit, so like that. And just as good as you can, nice and straight along those edges.
And is it going to be a heart attack if we're right on
No,
the edge here?
it's not going to be a heart attack at all. And especially sometimes, this is all going to be folded down inside,
perfect, okay.
so you're not even going to see it.
So, Ann, did you make this pattern yourself?
Yeah, yeah. The hard pattern I made from poster board that I got at Staples that was already lined 1/2 inch. It was grid board, and I hadn't seen that before. And that sure makes your life a lot easier. Yep, so go ahead, yeah. You got her down there. That looks perfect. If you guys decide, you know, that this hasn't been too painful and you want to do more of these for Christmas gifts and you have questions or anything, I'll just give you one of my cards and you can give me a call. I'm happy to answer questions. I mean, not at 3 in the morning on Christmas Eve, which is when I'm usually sewing, but I don't know how many times I have been sewing on buttons in the car on the way over to my parents' house for Christmas. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Looks good. So you just want to go right around the edges. You're good? Yep.
Now,
You
Ann,
got enough scissors?
the
Good.
women that taught me how to sew, including my mother, were unbelievably anal about their sewing scissors. Do you agree with that?
You want to avoid trying to cut through a pin. It won't work.
Right.
And it'll also ruin your scissors.
Yeah, but like they only ever use their
Yeah,
sewing
my
scissors
mom
for
too.
Yes.
fabric. That's the only thing ever.
Yeah, and it's because it will dull the scissors if you're using it on cardboard. And my mom always hid her scissors, and we always knew where she hid them. And so we always put them exactly back where they were supposed to
They're
be.
usually the best scissors in the house.
Exactly, they are. Yes. It isn't terribly expensive to have scissors sharpened, and most of the fabric stores will have sharpening service. You can take them to Ace Hardware. They will sharpen knives and scissors for you. It's not terribly expensive, but if you do try and cut through a piece of metal with your scissors, you may as well throw them away. Because, and scissors used to be terribly expensive, and they're not anymore. I mean, you can get them at the checkout stands at Safeway practically.
Yeah, and you don't worry about like Fiskars or
No.
you don't really care what brand they are.
No, Fiskars are good. I've used them a lot, mostly because they're lightweight and they're comfortable in your hand. And some of those big old heavy scissors that people used to use for like car upholstery and stuff, I don't have that much strength in my hand like a guy's gonna have. And if you're doing a lot of cutting, your hands get sore. Plus, Fiskars are like $8.95.
Yeah.
So it's not a lot of money, and again, garage sales, you'll find all kinds of sewing stuff at garage sales. Not just fabric and patterns, but, you know, sewing machines and stuff. If you are looking to buy a sewing machine, my only advice would be do not buy a Singer machine.
Oh, what?
Singer.
Really?
They have been traditionally sort of the cornerstone of the American market, but they know that, and they have reduced the quality substantially in their product over the years. If you buy one of those little old ones, the little black ones with the gold leaf fancy stuff, that's a good machine. Hang on to it. People who quilt pretty much give their eye teeth for those machines. But if you're looking for a good machine, I would recommend Bernina's. I've had real good luck with home machines and with sergers. So, and I know a lot of people have Bernina's. My sister is a prize-winning quilter, and she has a Bernina also.
The Selvage just got a new one, and I was just an idiot.
Okay.
That they're gonna, I don't know if they're gonna sell it
I hope so.
to people, but it's like a home use,
Okay.
not a whole lot of functions for you.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really nice.
Do you want the notches cut also?
Yep. Go ahead. Oh, not those notches.
little bitty
These
ones?
guys.
Right.
Just that's it.
But not-
Yeah. No, we'll mark the other ones a little bit. And what I've also found is buying a sewing machine is a little bit like buying a car. If you buy a good brand name, but their low-end product, they will still stand behind their product. So you don't have to get the computer-driven, fancy machine that does embroidery and all that kind of stuff. Just a machine that'll do a nice straight stitch for you is good. Oftentimes, machines that do several different things don't do any one thing very well. They kind of halfway do a bunch of things, and you won't be happy. So you will probably find a machine that does a straight stitch and maybe something called a zigzag, and the stitch actually looks exactly like a zigzag. It's just back and forth and back and forth. And we can take a look at the machines that we've got. These ones probably have a variety of different stitches on them. If you find at some point you want to do embroidery or that type of thing, go to one of the quilting stores and talk to them about that. There's a couple of good quilt stores in town that the quilters go to. There are also good stores in Hamilton and Polson and Big Sky, and there's some upholstery stores that I listed on the resource there if you get into that kind of thing. That looks perfect. Looks great. Okay, so pull your pins out, stick them back in the box, and then we're going to put the hard copy on there and make some marks so you can connect the dots with the chalk and mark your pattern that way. So you've got the other 3 pieces. You need to cut 2 of these, or excuse me, I'm sorry, 1 of these and 2 of the pockets. So I'm going to steal your top fabric and mark it for you while you guys are cutting those other pieces out. So. Yeah, I actually had an employee eat a piece of chalk one day. Eat it, yes. It was totally unintentional. This gal kept a kind of like a little dish of candy right next to her sewing machine. And she had a little piece of chalk, and she just picked up the chalk instead of this little piece of candy and stuck it in her mouth, and all of a sudden we hear, bleh! We just started laughing. I mean, it's like, what do you do? I've had people sew through their fingers. I wouldn't recommend that. And one of the things it says on the pattern or the directions, do not bleed on your fabric. You will not be happy. It will look terrible. It's really hard to get out. And you will poke yourself with pins and needles, and you probably will look down and go, oh, where did that orange spot come from? And realize you're bleeding. So a lot of the parts of this kind of sewing like this, where you're just doing square pieces basically, is a lot of measuring. When you start doing clothing, it's more of a fit it to yourself, fit it to the person type thing. But this is adding things up and putting things together with straight lines. So you want to be pretty good about sewing on the lines, because, as an example, if you are a 1/4 inch off on every single edge, that adds up to being off by an inch, you know, after 4 edges. And that might make the difference between something fitting and not fitting. On your list of suppliers is a company called Seattle Fabrics, and they have recreational fabrics and things that you might use for hiking or climbing or packs or foul weather gear or tents, all that kind of stuff. And they have lots of hardware, Velcro, zippers, thread, a bunch of things like that. And next time you go over to Seattle, you want to stop and see them. They're not that far from downtown. Or you can go online and check them out. Now, when you're looking at fabric, you can tell that in many cases there's a right and a wrong side. This is real obvious that this is a right and a wrong side. On some of them, it's not quite as obvious, and in some cases, you can't tell at all. On this one, it's fairly obvious because you've got the long threads, it's white on the back. So if you think you're going to get confused about the front and the back, put an X on the front or on the back and be consistent about where you put that X. So either you always put it on the front or you always put it on the back. You're going to probably want to run your pocket the other direction.
Oh, okay.
Just put a stripe right down the middle of it like that, and that'll be cool. Yeah. People used to come into my store trying to pick out fabric for whatever they were going to have upholstered. And they'd come in 2 or 3 times and look and look and look and couldn't make up their mind. And finally, I'd realize every time they'd been in my store, they were wearing the same colors. So I would show them those fabric colors, and they'd love them, and that was it. That's, you know, they wanted to, everything, either they like blues or, you know, they like brown plaids, you know, whatever, that kind of thing.
Are you at all attached to this if I chop right
No,
in the middle here?
you hack off what you want. I got lots of it. Now, some of the things that we're going to do, we are going to fold the fabric. Sometimes it is easier to fold the fabric if you iron the fabric. Some fabrics you can't iron because they will melt. Excuse me. So we want to take a look. If Heidi brought her iron and her ironing board, so in some cases it might be easier to iron things, but in other cases you just flat won't be able to. Like you can't iron vinyl, and something like 100% nylon fabric will melt, like the stuff your outside shell of your sleeping bag is made out of. And if you keep doing sewing, you will learn a lot about fabric. One thing I found out is smoke jumpers around here have to know how to sew, because they have to make all their own stuff, any equipment, and they have to repair it. And they can't blame anybody else if their stuff fails. So they have to make sure they know. They've got sewing facilities out there. And I called them up to see if I could go out and talk to them, but they're only open in the summer, so. So hopefully one of the things that you'll learn from this is a little bit about how to use a sewing machine. And we're just going to be doing straight stitching. And that means that at some point you can probably hem your own jeans. Do little minor repair work on things that you'd otherwise have to toss, which is good. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. I think yours is all marked over there.
All right.
Take a look at the directions that came in your packet. It's just a little thing. It says how to make a bag or something like that, to see what the next step is. Because the next step isn't this.
All right.
Yeah, it's pockets. So it's just go ahead and kind of read through that. Now that you got an idea of what things look like,
Yep.
and that'll help you out. Let's see. Find somebody else's here that needs marking. Now, when you start looking at the price of fabric in the stores, you'll faint when you see something that says $120 a yard. So when you lay things out, you will start to get pretty stingy about putting things right up against the edge. And there's so much material that actually gets thrown away in this world. It's just astounding to me. But you could, if you keep your eye open and get to garage sales in the thrift stores, virtually never have to buy new clothing again. It's just, it depends what your time schedule is, of course, but there's a lot available at a very low price, and there's also a lot available at a very high price. So if you get everything cut, go ahead and read through just the directions, that little sheet, now that you know what the pieces of the material are supposed to look like, and have a basic idea of where things go. And if there's terms on there that you're not familiar with, look at that little glossary sheet that I gave you that's on the back of the resources. And there's some definitions there that might help, and if they don't help, just ask. One of the things about a sewing machine is, again, it's a little bit like a car. It has an accelerator on it, and it can get kind of out of hand. So it's actually much easier to go way fast, but that probably isn't what you want to do. And it takes a little bit of practice to kind of learn how to feather that pedal a bit to get things to end up where you want them. But it does take practice. It's not hard. It's just sort of like learning a bicycle. You just have to kind of keep working at it. So how many people have seen Project Runway? Nobody, okay. All right. Yeah. It is, the whole premise is people quickly designing and making clothing and competing against each other for the best design. And yeah, they do. And I went to one last year. It was great. Yeah, I didn't enter, but I went to see what they'd done. And what they'd done is they'd given the gals a budget of like $20. And Secret Seconds said they would sponsor it so that gals could go to, or guys, could go to Secret Seconds, which is the YWCA's fundraising thrift shops, which is on your list there, and pick out stuff and sort of remake them into different kinds of clothing. And in one case, they had to have an ethnic theme, and these gals sort of picked ethnic themes out of a hat. And it was very creative, and there were a lot of people there. It was fun. And another way, you know, to recycle clothing. And I've seen lists, for example, as far as recycling clothing goes. It says what things to always buy used and what things to always buy new. And electronics are always buy new, and baby clothes and books are always buy used. Because that kid's not going to be that size for very long. And there's just so much out there. There's consignment shops and lots of stuff, but Heidi's really good at making old stuff into new stuff. Because how old is Ivory?
19 months.
19 months. And the Selvage Studio is an excellent resource. Don't iron that.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, that stuff is not gonna be happy if it gets ironed. The gals at the Selvage Studio are really enthusiastic and they're fun, so I would recommend them. So if you've got everything cut out, go ahead, and we need to start setting up the machines. Maybe Beth Ann, you can help moving tables and stuff so we can get that going, because now we don't need those big tables anymore. So once you've got everything cut out, go ahead and take your paper patterns, fold them up and stick them in the envelope so you've got them. I've got a whole big box of thread. And usually in the machines, in the instructions with the machines, there's a diagram on how to thread it, where everything goes, where it loops through. Coates & Clark makes a thread called Dual Duty, and that's what most of that is in there. And it'll be fine for most home sewing. Kenmore makes a good machine.
I love this thing.
Yeah, White makes a good machine. And the rest of these are all Bernina's, so.
So it doesn't get
Yeah.
the belt.
Yeah, is that, let me run this under so it doesn't damage that. Okay, so paper pieces, we probably can move elsewhere. Okay, find yourself a chair.
This one has an on switch, which I like.
Oh,
Yay!
so you can see. And you can also see the bobbin going around in it, which is
And it has
nice.
dark blue in it right now, but
Yeah, he's probably going to want to have black. I was trying to see how that opened up. Yeah, all these sewing machines are different. So, yeah. Do you have another bobbin for that one?
no, it only has one. But
Does it matter what way it comes off the bobbin?
No.
Against it or with it?
It would possibly on this machine because it's got the little notch.
Yeah.
The thread,
It could
it's
hook
got the little notch and it might hook it. So yeah, that would be the only one.
Spools of thread. It doesn't matter if
Yep.
your machine pulls it off. This thing or off.
This one I haven't figured out a way to like well, maybe this one.
Okay, right, so,
Like the needle still goes, and I haven't figured out a way to.
yeah, the sewing machine, you want to turn it off for a second?
Yeah.
Usually,
Yeah, usually it has a way to pop it,
oh,
but I haven't figured. And it doesn't come with a manual or
Okay.
anything, so
okay.
I haven't figured out a different way to.
This is called a bobbin. And, yeah, okay, here's a trick to
Turn it on the
that.
other side?
Turn it on the other side, yeah, comme ça. So the thread, when it gets threaded, goes through a series of tension discs. And one of the objects in a sewing machine is to have even tension on the top thread and the bottom thread, so that when they loop through, the threads meet in the middle of the fabric like that illustration was. If it doesn't do that, the threads will either lie right along the top or on the bottom, and the other thread will go all the way up. And you can tell if the thread is sitting along the top, it means the thread on the top is too tight. And usually there's discs, different kinds of things that you turn to increase or decrease the tension. And it's a lot like working gears on anything else. You turn it a quarter turn, see what happens, run some material through, see if it looks okay, turn it another quarter turn like that, and just go little by little. And that's what's happening.
It's really easy to thread. 'Cause it's
And there's a
numbered.
hook
It tells you
right
like
here.
1, 2, and then this one just slips through.
Yep, 3, back down. It's catching on something. And then there's a series of hooks down at the bottom. And usually the thread goes front to back or from the left side to the right side through the eye of the needle. And that's when you need to get the magnifying glass out and do that. And you usually run the needle down, let it catch the bobbin, loop around once, and pull both threads up to the top like that. That's a really complicated bobbin case, actually.
Yeah, and when I first pulled it out of the shed at Mud, like it wouldn't work, so I like dismantled this and just cleaned it and
Oh,
put it
geez.
back together.
Oh, yeah.
And it works fine now.
Good.
So,
Good.
but I don't know.
Now, one of the nice things this plate has, just to let you know, this is called the presser foot. And back here, where is he? Oh, you need to see this or not. Usually there is something that raises and lowers a presser foot. And in this case, I'm not sure how that works. Heidi, how do you raise and lower this presser foot?
Oh, it took me forever to figure out. It's
Oh, it's over there. Okay.
I got so frustrated because it didn't have a manual. It doesn't have anything. So.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, it's on this side.
Okay. In some machines, it's back here. There's one here. Other machines have them here. But you want to remember to put the presser foot down when you start to sew. I have many times tried sewing with that presser foot up, and it just snaggles everything up. So you drop the presser foot. Oh, what did she say? Here we go. To sew. These notched pieces on the bottom are called feed dogs, and they actually pull the fabric through. They come up and they circle like this, and they've got teeth on them, and they pull the fabric through. This is often referred to as just the plate. This is the wheel, and tension discs. This stuff, she's going to have to show you how to do this. Every machine is different. This has got reverse and forward like that. This, I suspect, is reverse and forward like that. I'm not sure what low and high is. This is all set for embroidery. This machine has got no embroidery on it. Again, this is a bobbin winder, same thing. It goes down through this little loop and it comes back over here to wind the bobbin up. So, yeah. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sew your pockets, and you've got those here and ready to go. So let's grab a chair and we will give it a try. Now, let's see if we've got, this is an extra scrap of fabric.
Yep.
All right. We want to try that first, so you get kind of an idea of how that the foot pedal works, right? So you can just turn this over like that and run this through. So we're going to drop that, and don't pay any attention to where the needle is going.
Okay.
Try and keep the edge of the presser foot along the edge of here, and just sometimes it helps to just turn this a little to get the needle to come down.
Yeah.
And give it a little bit of okay, so you want to stay over near that edge a little bit more. So you kind of want to drive the, just turn it like this
Oh,
a
I see.
little
Okay.
bit.
Yeah.
There you go.
So if you come around here, most of these things, some machines are on the user end. Just basically.
That's a nice machine. Okay.
Then stop right there.
That's good.
All right.
Yep. Now, at the end of something, when you do this, I'm going to have to get used to this lifter thingy here. You want a double stitch, so go ahead, push this down, and just go back a few stitches.
All right.
Go ahead. Okay, now let go. Go forward again. Good. Done.
Gotcha. All right.
Yep. So you can lift this up, and you want that needle up, because then you can pull it out.
Okay.
If the needle's down, you can't pull it out.
All right.
And that's a double stitch. And what we're looking at here is how this stuff is sewing. You want to see if the threads, top and bottom, none of them are looping. There's also a matter of the stitch length and how long these stitches are. And these are pretty tiny stitches right now, so we're going to see how we can make these longer.
And what would be the purpose of that?
To sew faster, and also if you have to take it out,
Yeah.
you have to take, it's very difficult to take this. It's a lot of time to take out something that you don't sew properly.
Yeah.
So, Heidi, do you know how to make the stitch length longer on this?
Oh, that's a good point.
So I usually clip my threads as I go.
All right.
Yeah, because it's
And
way
with, you want to keep it 0?
Yes.
Unless you're doing
zigzag, but we're
or
not.
any of these,
No,
which you're not.
we're not.
So
All of this is straight.
any of these.
So we want pretty long.
And the longer they are, the easier that they are to take back out.
That's what
Yes, yes. Okay, so what we're going to try here is we're going to sew along that edge. So probably that little slot is going to show you exactly where to sew.
Okay.
And we just want to sew that edge down. Now we don't want to sew over the pins.
All right, so we'll take those out.
So you take those out, and you want to do a little, you don't have to do a double stitch on this. So now what I would recommend, excuse
that
me,
one
keep this one in till you get there.
All right, great.
And then take it out a little bit before you get there. And you always want to hold your threads back with one hand.
Okay.
How you doing? Good. And give that a shot. Just sew to the end and stop, and you're all right. Alrighty, if we got a lot. Okay, you got that. That's good. Do you have a scissors? Here's the scissors. All right. Good. And this is a bobbin case. And when you put the thread in, David, I'm just going to show you this as well. When you put the bobbin in to the bobbin case, or the top like that, you want to make sure it's going through this notch and it's coming backward this way. You don't want to have it in this way where the thread is going the same direction as that notch.
Gotcha.
You want it to reverse.
All right.
And that's the case in every machine I've ever used.
All right.
So it goes into that little notch and you pull it back, she said. easily, right. Doesn't want to go in there. There we go. And then you pull it through, so it's coming through there. There we go. It notches right into that little one.
Okay.
All machines are different. And there's some basic similarities, but all machines are different. Okay, so we've got it here. All right. So, goes under a loop here. This is a tensioning disc here. It's adjustable there. You come down through here. It's another tensioning disc. And up, and then there's a hook here. And you want to go through the hook, whoops, like that. And then back down and through a loop on here.
Okay.
And then generally, the thread goes either from the front to the back or from the left to the right. And this looks like it's going from the left to the right. There are different sizes. Let me see if I can see this. Yep, is it front to back? Oh no, it is front to back. This is a small needle. There are different sizes of needles. And the heavier the fabric is you're working on, the bigger the needle is. You want to punch a bigger hole in it. There we go. Okay. So this is a wheel. This is a plate. This is a presser foot. These little slotted things here pull the fabric through. They're called the feed dogs, and they help the fabric run through there. So we're going to run it down. We're going to pick up the thread in the bobbin. You pull it back up like this. You want your threads to go through that little slot here. Pull them back, and then when you start to sew, you want to make sure you've held these threads back.
Okay.
So, according to the directions, we want to take this, fold it down a 1/2 inch, fold it down another 1/2 inch, and pin that on both of them.
Okay.
And then we're going to take that and we're going to sew it through there. Now what you might want to do before you sew on your good stuff, take a piece like this and just
Practice.
see what it's like.
Okay.
You know, see how the presser foot works. Chances are you go zzz, 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 and then you learn how to go chunk, 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 chunk. So instead of starting off on the good stuff first, try this guy and see how that works. And there should be, is it plugged in?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
It might, well, either the bulb isn't working or something. I'm not sure on that. But give that a shot. Try
do I
folding
have
something
to-
over.
Do I need to hold these at the same time too, or just make sure?
You need 4 hands. You need to hold this back, you need to hold this down, and you need to steer and drive at the same time. So it's like a motorcycle.
Jeez.
But yeah, you only have to hold these back at the very beginning, and then you're good to go. So yeah, so fold that under and see how that works. How we doing?
Good, I think.
Okay?
First one.
Looks fine to me. Alrighty, so we'll just put our threads over there. Yes,
Do
ma'am?
you know anything about the free motion feet or foot feet like that you can get from machines that have just the opening?
Yeah, I have seen those.
I assume they don't come from my sewing machine.
They may. They're usually in there for embroidery and stuff like that. Yeah, so it's usually designed for a particular machine. It varies. Okay, we're just gonna cut this close.
All right.
And cut this close, and we'll run another row of stitching.
Yep.
Because you see how
Yeah.
that's like that. So we'll give it another shot.
Right.
And that's a
This
very,
has to be down, right?
yes, that has to be down. And we want 1.5 inches and a half, and we'll put our pins back in to make our life easier. Okay. And we want these, both of these threads to go through this slot and toward the back.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then put the presser foot down and give her another try. That's good. Okay. You're doing great.
Okay.
Yeah, so turn the wheel so the needle is up. Towards you is always best. Yeah, towards you is, yeah, because sometimes it'll snaggle up if you don't go forward.
Needle's up.
Yep, lift up the presser foot and carefully pull it out. And if it doesn't want to pull out, reach over the wheel and just wiggle the wheel a little bit.
This one?
Yep. And you can just, there you go. Okay, and then just cut right close to your stitching and cut off the other end of the stitching. If you can find, I think those are my kitchen scissors actually. That's great. Good. Okay. So we're going to take our 2 pockets.
All right.
We're going to go over to your main piece of fabric over here.
Okay.
And we're going to pin them on. Now, eventually, this bag is going to go like this.
Right.
So we want the pockets with the holes facing up.
Okay.
So we want here like that, and the other one here like that. And we're just gonna take a couple pins and put it in here so it stays where it's supposed to be. So
Now,
go
how
ahead.
did you know that you wanted the hem at the top?
Because that other piece of fabric, that
Will
H
cover
shape,
that.
will cover that. And the straps are going to cover the sides.
Awesome.
So,
And you don't really have to pull on the fabric. Okay. Because there's the plate down here. You actually also want to make sure that you're. So basically, you're just keeping it in your straight.
okay, now, after we get those pinned on, we're going to put the straps on. And I happen to know that the length of strap we need for this is 86 inches.
Okay.
You could probably do one more stitch. Yeah, and then go.
But if you wanted, that is for the bag that I made. If you wanted, say, a longer strap, you could always make the strap longer.
No, let's go with it.
Yeah.
Just a little bit further. Sometimes I just do the last stitch.
There we go. Okay, so let's go find a color we like on the strap here. We got red, yellow, green, and blue. Somebody grab the blue, but any of those.
Awesome. Okay. How about?
I have my help sometimes out at service.
I don't know. Let's use the green. You think?
Sure, whatever you want.
Sewing machine too.
It's entirely up to you.
Green.
Green?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And we want to measure that out and cut it.
86 inches, right?
86.
And just make sure that you know what you're supposed to be doing. So it's so easy to not read directions and then be like, oh.
Am I going forward?
So it's going to be a one-piece strap?
I think it said.
Is this? Yes. Yes, and I'll show you why. Is that 36?
80s.
85. This is, what is this? Oh, here we go. Okay.
And you want a half-inch seam allowance? That's the line, the first line past the presser foot, right?
On the top of the pockets, you just fold it over half, and then sew it right along the folded edge. Pretty
Right,
close
so
to the folded
right
edge.
along this top edge,
No.
the bottom edge.
Yes. Yeah, kind of close to that. Okay, so let's go.
So 70 and make 35 and 35 and then
Yep.
16? That sound good?
35. Yep.
All right.
If you have conflict, if you have contrasting threads.
And 35.
All right.
That's 70. And 16.
Okay.
There we go. Now, lots of times you would want to heat seal this, but it's all going to be covered up so you don't have to worry about it. So we want to find the middle of the strap.
Okay.
Okay.
You can measure by,
And we're just going to mark the middle.
by running yourself right along the edge.
Okay. And we're going to put that right in the middle here.
All right.
So let's see, that's
It's basically this width.
9 inches, so 4.5 is right. 11, 9, where are we? 4.5, that's the middle. We're gonna put that right there.
All right.
Write it yourself and try to.
I'm just gonna pin it in.
But there's really no need.
And it's gonna be a little tricky to pin this in, but you don't have to pin it a lot.
Okay.
So, okay, so we wanna make sure we don't accidentally flip the,
Yeah.
like this.
Okay.
We want it to be nice, steady. And again, we need to mark the middle,
All right.
excuse me, here. Okay, and we're gonna put that one there,
All right.
like that. And you can probably pin it right up along there. Like that. And we don't want to do anything weird there. Same.
Yeah, good, got it.
That one right there is
I wanna start
making funny noises. Not yours. No, that one. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this over there and we're going to start here or here, and you're going to sew, keep this on this chalk line right here.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what that's there for. Oops, it's really hard to do this, yeah, because it's so thick. Whoa. Okay, we'll start here, we'll sew up here, and then where we get to this mark, we'll sew across and go down, all the way down to this mark, and across, and back up here. And the same over here. We're just gonna do a big, long box. Now, what you wanna make sure is that you don't sew over your pins. So when you sew up here, you get to that point, reach in and pull the pin out, yeah. And just go nice and slow. There's no hurry.
Okay.
Yep. So make your life easy. Start on this side.
Yeah, okay.
And you just lift that. I'm going to move this paper out of our way here so that don't damage that.
You have all these girls doing 4-H sewing projects. Maybe you need another sewing machine. And it was a pretty good deal.
Stitch this whole edge here.
Yeah, pretty close to the edge. So when I say
Oh,
mine, I
this
just
edge.
mean I stole it from her.
Yes, it is. Okay. And it probably just popped out of there.
Okay.
Okay. And then this is a front to back. So I just do this to get a nice sharp edge on the thread.
Yeah.
And I've got this looped around the back, which I don't want. There we go. And sometimes what will happen is you won't have enough thread at the very beginning. The thread will be really short, and when this hook pulls up, pulls the thread right out.
Gotcha.
So that might have been what happened.
All right.
So we'll put her back in where you were and drop the presser foot and just kind of hold this along here. You don't have to worry about this pocket at all. Ignore it. Just keep this right along the chalk edge and you'll be fine.
All right. I should probably put a pin out when I get.
And how we doing?
Thumb down near the end. Looks-
Okay, now I'll show you how to do this. So you got to get up for a second.
All right.
What you're going to do is you're going to pivot. You're going to put the needle in by hand like that. You're going to lift up your presser foot and you're going to turn the fabric like this. Okay? Just like that. And we went a little high, but I think that'll be okay. Man, I
High as in I went too far that
went a
way.
little bit too far, but I think we'll be all right. Then we're going to go over here, and this is such an awkward lifter. Okay, and then you're going to go down the other side.
Okay.
Same, all the way, just keep on going, and you don't want to go any further than this mark here.
Okay.
And then the same thing, you put the needle in with the wheel, You lift up the presser foot, you turn the fabric, you put the presser foot back, you take a couple stitches across, you do the same thing again, turn, and keep going.
Great, thanks.
Yep. Not saying that I've ever put the pockets on upside down, but it has been done. Okay, so this is all marked for where the pockets. The needle's in there. Okay, and you're going to turn the material that way,
Just
like that.
for a hair.
Yeah, and put the presser foot down again. That's the most awkward presser foot. And take like 2 or 3 stitches. That should be good. Put the needle down.
Yeah, well, where's your middle of this thing?
You always want to go forward. You want to go that way when you put the needle down. Because sometimes some machines will... Yes, exactly. Okay, now we're going to cheat. We want to lift this presser foot up. We're going to spin
Gotcha.
that way.
All right.
And then you're going to stitch down that side. And you want to make sure that the pocket stays in there. So let's see if we can get a...
And you do 36 and 36.
That's 72, and then you need another 14. Okay, so we want to keep the pocket in underneath there. So we'll put it kind of like that. Okay, there you go.
So Heidi, pin the pockets on,
Yep.
no stitching.
And if you can stitch a little closer to the edge, that would be a good thing. Good. Yep. Perfect. Good. All right. Sure. How we doing?
So, pretty close to here.
Just keep going. Overlap your stitching about an inch. Call it done. You're good. That's great. Good. All right.
And now I'm just going to pull it out, huh?
Yes. Yep. You want to roll this forward so the needle's up. Pull the fabric out, clip your stitches, and then do the other side and start in the middle on the other side. Same. Yeah, it's probably, you just want to know that you're kind of, okay, let's try this. Like that. Yeah, you want to go, that's going to pull right out just like that. So we want to put one here, like that. And you want to put one here.
Okay. Yeah.
How you doing?
I overshot on this side, right?
Yeah,
So I should start down here on this side?
it's not going to make much difference. But you want to start in the middle.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm just going along both sides of the...
Start in the middle, down here, and you're going to go down here to the mark. There's a black mark with a couple of dots. And across here, all the way down to the other dots, and come back and start. And you're going to same thing all the way around. Picking up those pockets as well. Now, as you're going along here, you want to make sure that this is going to stay on this the chalk line. Other than that, keep right on going. Now, I kind of find sometimes if I hold front and back instead of side to side, that works a little better, but whatever works for you.
Right. Yeah.
You're good. And then you can pull it out and clip your threads and do the other side. All right, so next step on this is your bottom piece, which is this one right here. And we're going to tuck this in right along that white edge there. And you can eyeball about 1/2 inch.
Okay,
And if you need to measure,
all right.
you measure. And we're going to put that right there. And we're going to pin it right along like that. All the way from side to side. And probably without the cord in the way. So it's a nice flat surface to work on. And then we're going to turn this under and pin this side, turn this under and pin this side, all along that chalk line, just like that. Whoops. No, you can't say whoops. No, whoops is not allowed.
Oh, lots of O's. Oh. Another $10 and stay another hour.
Okay.
I can go out there.
It's gonna take us 15 minutes to clean.
Okay.
Yep,
Is this the right way for me to approach this?
that'll work. That'll definitely work. You'll learn to put your pins in the other direction so they're easier to pull out. And you want to line this edge up like that. And then probably stitch pretty close to the edge. Yeah, put the presser foot down.
I guess that would hurt if you hurt your finger.
Nah, not really. You want to hold those threads back so they don't get tangled up. Make sure they're sitting back there. All right, that's great. And you should be good to go.
Oops, that's getting pulled.
What
See how
is?
it's getting pulled off the chalk
Oh,
line
I
there.
see, yeah, okay. Alrighty, why don't you,
Why?
Go
Well,
ahead.
maybe if I just held it like that, I don't know.
yeah, if you take this and you just really hold it with,
Yeah.
take this hand and hold that edge down.
Yeah.
Just where it's supposed to go, and you're good. Oh, are you hitting the fabric? Yeah, you are, okay. Just try and stay inside. I mean, like I said, you need 5 hands to do
Right.
this. And we're gonna, there, you got it. Okay, so you wanna pull that
Okay, how
pin
far
out.
down am I going to go? All the way down?
All the way down, and you wanna pull that pin out now, because you're not gonna get it out of there later. There you go,
Great.
perfect. Yeah, so just hold this like that. So it's gonna stay where you gotta be boss. Tell it where it's gonna go. Looks great, there you are.
Well, that makes sense.
Can I do a back stitch down here?
No, you don't have to.
Let's go right through.
Just go right through. Good, good. And pull that neat.
The next step, sewing the side seams together.
That's exactly right. Just fold it in half. Yep, fold it in half and line up those 2 sides and just stitch all the way. Yep, just this edge right here. And pin that. And then the same on the other side.
Okay.
Yep.
And we don't go down here.
Nope,
No. Okay.
not yet. All right, how we doing?
Good, I think.
All right then.
You did 1/2 inch seam allowance,
What are we doing?
the side seam.
Yes, 1/2 inch seam allowance.
So
Good.
I got to fold it down.
Not yet.
Okay.
We're going to turn it this way,
All right.
like this, and put these 2 sides together. You want to make sure you get all the fabric in there. And now I'm going to pin it this way. And you want to sew down this side and sew down this side. You know, pin them together. Here's a bunch of pins. And you want 1/2 inch. And your machine has got it marked right there. So what that means is when you stitch, don't pay attention to the needle. Make sure the fabric just runs right down where it says 4/8. You can see it from this side when you're looking. Pay no attention to the needle at all. Just make sure your fabric is running right down that 4/8 line, and you'll be fine.
Great.
Yep. Okay, good.
All right.
Yep. Okay, so you want to make sure that when you get down here to the end, you've got about the same amount. So if it were me, I would go back up here and stitch in here a little bit. So you want to follow that line, that 4/8 line. So just start there and give it another run. Cool. Other side. Over there. And make sure you're catching all your fabric in there.
So I'm gonna do half-inch in over here.
How we doing?
Good.
Excellent.
So,
Great. Okay, so the next job is making our corners.
oh, okay.
And we're going to go just like this.
Same half-inch thing?
It is the same half-inch thing. It's a little tricky because it's hard to see a half-inch on this sometimes. So I'm going to steal a pencil right here and I'm going to draw that line for you.
All right.
And I would recommend if you do another one of these, you do the same thing, draw the line. On this seam, you want to double stitch at the beginning and the end. So you want to double stitch here and you want to double stitch there. That's this back and
Okay.
forth thing.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
So probably easiest to sew it like that. There you go. There you go. Okay, now stop, stop. You want to back up. Did you do the back and forth of the? Yeah. Okay. Just hold it down and let her go. Okay. Just like that. Perfect. Okay. You can go forward, and when you get to the other end, you want to remember to do the back and forth thing too. Perfect. Excellent. Looks good.
I gotta redo that because I didn't have the foot down.
Oh, okay. Okay. There we go. Okay, let me see this for just a quick second here. I think we're going to do this one again.
All right.
Yeah, because you didn't catch it on the other end there.
Okay.
So we're going to quick take that out. And that's the nice thing about these big stitches is it's easy to take it out.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I should have
No, that's all right.
grab this to help you with these corners because it's a tricky corner. This is probably the trickiest part of the whole thing is these corners
Yeah.
down in here. So the trick to this was lining the edges up so that they didn't have any funny angle on them or anything.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's nice to mark just the middle of everything while you're going so you can kind of tell. This guy here, you want these two edges together
Okay.
and you want these corners right at the corners like that.
Gotcha.
So,
I see.
yeah. So then we'll take this. There you go.
Great.
So do your little double stitching back and forth, you know, at the beginning and the end.
Okay.
And there you go.
Thanks.
All right, sure.
Okay, so this one.
Yeah, exactly. And you can put a ton of pins in there. Perfect. Okay, now flip it all right side out. You have the option of ironing. If you have these rabid ironers. How we doing?
Good. So I go down to that line?
You fold this down, and then you fold it down again.
Oh, okay.
Just like that, and pin it so your stripes line up.
Okay. So basically, I'm going down this length twice?
Yes, you are.
All right.
Yep, and you got a bunch of pins back here, so. Oh my, what happened? It got kind of, oh well. It happens. How are we doing?
It sounded different.
That's because you don't have the presser foot down. There you go. That looks good.
Okay.
Okay. So, now you want to make sure you keep the straps out of the way because you don't want to stitch over the straps. And there you go. And it's probably nicer to start on the side because you won't see the stitching as much. So start sewing
Okay.
over here.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And you're going to have a big lump of fabric to go through, so you don't want to, whoops, we picked something extra up there.
All right.
Okay, let's see here. This is hard fabric. This is great fabric for this, actually. So we'll start here, and let's get our needle up and our thread back. And I'm going to start about here, so when you get going, you can go right across that bump and it won't stop you.
All right.
So you want to be kind of close to the edge,
All right.
and just go slowly.
Okay.
Yeah, in this particular one, you want to kind of slow down. Okay, so let me take a quick look at this. Yeah, you're going to be really close on this one.
All right.
And what I would do, when you get here, just go ahead and kind of come up and around.
Okay.
It's going to look weird on the outside,
Right.
but I think that's the best we're going to get with that because that one got a little close. Good. So, Heidi, are you done? Okay, you are our model. This truly lovely, it's lightweight fabric.
Yeah.
Okay, so there we are. Pockets, bottom, straps, we're good to go. Wasn't too painful. We had a good time. And you've got a pattern, you've got the directions, you can do it again. Yeah. And if you wanted to line it, you could. It would be pretty easy because you could just tuck the lining in underneath here in your final stitch and you'd be all right. All righty. Good. I think we're done. All right, thanks a lot.